Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking your time out of your day to be here. Let me just turn on our live transcript, and I think it's all set to go. A few housekeeping things before we get started. In this webinar format, you can see and hear me, but I cannot see or hear you. This webinar is being recorded and will be distributed along with the slides at the conclusion of today's presentation. As well, you will receive a link to complete a survey about your experience today. We appreciate your feedback as it helps us know what we're doing well and what we can improve in the future. Lastly, if you have any questions during the presentation, please place them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to be addressed at the end of the presentation. There are the two boxes next to each other to the right of the chat box. My name is April Myerscough. I'm the Public Programs Coordinator with Florida Humanities and the primary contact for the Speakers Bureau and accompanying Florida Talks program. Today I will cover information about our organization and the Speakers Bureau, share some important dates, guidelines, and priority topics in this application cycle. I will also cover what makes a good speaker, contract requirements for speakers, steps to apply, frequently asked questions, and then answer all of your questions. If you are new to Florida Humanities and our work, we are the state affiliate of the National Endowment of the Humanities established in 1973. We are primarily a grant-making and grant-distributing organization to assist cultural organizations to develop and execute public humanities programming. Our mission is to preserve, promote, and share the history, literature, culture, and personal stories that offer Floridians a better understanding of themselves, their communities, and their state. The Florida Humanities Speakers Bureau is a distinguished collection of scholars, authors, storytellers, historians, and content area experts who offer up to 3 humanities-focused public presentations on multiple topics to suit out-of-school audiences and adults ages 18 plus. Speakers provide expertise, valuable context, and help audiences navigate the gray areas of the world. Speakers present their programs through our organizational companion program, Florida Talks, and sometimes through 2 of our competitive grant processes, Community Project Grants and Greater Good Humanities and Academia Grant Program. So here's what you probably logged on to see today, and our applications opened on November 1st, so a little over a month ago, and will remain open until January 11th, 2023, so you have about a month from today. Applications are evaluated on a rolling basis until the closing date, so we strongly recommend you apply sooner rather than later. All applicants will be notified of their status in March 2023, and programming will begin June 2023 at host organizations. Our deadlines are quite firm and unlikely to provide an extension, so I recommend, again, applying sooner rather than later. So I'm now going to go into depth about the application guidelines and qualities of an ideal program and speaker. We have limited space for new speakers in 2023, so we are focusing on programs that fall under the following topics seen on the next slide. Programs outside these topics will be considered, but will not receive high priority in our consideration process. Similarly, programs adhering to these topics won't be automatically included in the Bureau. So here is the list of priority topics for this application cycle. Florida Humanities is looking for presentations that can be classified as under one or more of the following topics: archaeology and anthropology, Asian American and Pacific Islander history and culture, environmental humanities, Florida art history, Florida food and cuisine, Florida literature and poetry, Indigenous peoples history and culture, LGBTQ+ history and culture, and women's history. All programs still must be Florida focused or connect to Florida in some way. If your presentation does not fall under one of these topics, in the application there is space for you to classify the program. The ideal presenter shares Florida Humanities' desire for open-ended, enlightening, and thought-provoking discussions. They are enthusiastic to share their expertise and knowledge about the humanities with Floridians of all backgrounds. The speaker is open to tackling challenging questions and helping audiences discuss hard topics. The speaker also has an operating knowledge of and can navigate digital presentation platforms like PowerPoint and Zoom, or if you're not super familiar with those platforms, is willing to learn how to use them to present virtual presentations. As well, we ask speakers to have advanced training, expertise, or education in the humanities field or a related area. You do not have to have a higher education degree to be eligible to join the Bureau because we are more interested in your experience and knowledge in the humanities. Great presentations are built around one riveting topic, thought, or tidbit of information that expands the scope of the program to the entire state and can include open-ended questions. Speakers should have a dynamic, engaging speaking style and be able to adjust their tone based on the audience present and avoid complicated jargon that can be inaccessible to a larger audience. Programs should demonstrate the speaker's expertise about the topic, and the speaker should be able to skillfully answer a myriad of audience questions. The topic of an ideal presentation is contemporary and can connect personally to general, non-specialist audiences, even if your program is more historic or is centered around a historical event, person, or place. Lastly, an ideal presentation has connections and relevance to communities across the state and is not limited to one individual's history, community, point of view, or experience. This last statement that I just shared is the most important piece of your presentation. Programs that are too narrow in scope and focus on a limited perspective wouldn't be considered application competitive in our application process. Similarly, programs must be nonpartisan, rooted in humanities research, and appropriate for a general adult audience. Programs that include the following activities will not be considered for inclusion and marked ineligible during the application process. Promotion of a particular political, religious, or ideological point of view, advocacy of a particular social or political action, support or opposition of specific public policies or legislation, and programs that contain lobbying. Presentations that are also used as fundraising vehicles for a business, corporation, or a nonprofit are also ineligible, as well as presentations whose goal it is to be motivational, inspirational, or provide self-help instruction will also not be considered in the process. So here's an example of a program currently on our Speakers Bureau. Key West Handprint Fabrics and Island Industry is a presentation by Dr. Corey Convertito, the lead historian at the Key West Art and Historical Society. The presentation is the story of the rise of Lilly Pulitzer's fashion domination and its effects on Key West, the fashion industry, and Florida culture as a whole. This program was added to the Bureau in June 2022. I'm going to play a brief clip of her virtual presentation hosted with the Marco Island Historical Society in November of 2022. Please let me know in the send a chat or a Q&A if I need to increase the volume, and we're going to watch a couple of minutes of this presentation.
The new Key West business that was turning out these brightly colored fabrics caught the attention of another relatively new business in South Florida, one run by a Palm Beach socialite by the name of Lilly Pulitzer. I'm sure we've all heard the name. The business started approximately 2 years before Key West Handprint, and there were many similarities that are going to bring these two entities together. So I want to give you a little background on Lilly, because this all goes to how successful everybody will be. this picture, this is Lily here, and coincidentally, Lily is wearing one of her dresses in this, and I can tell just because I knew Susie so well before she passed away in her art, that is a dress that Susie DePoo designed that Lily's wearing in this image here. So she's born Lillian Lee McKim. She's the great granddaughter of Jabez Bostwick, which was one of John D. Rockefeller's original partners in Standard Oil. So she's coming from money. Her wealthy family afforded a place she can go to boarding school, private boarding school, where she befriended other students from well-to-do families. One of those friends was a girl by the name of Patsy Pulitzer that she met when she was in boarding school. She introduced Lily to her brother, Herbert Pulitzer, who went by the name Henry, who was a Palm Beach socialite and heir to the publishing empire that was started by his grandfather, Joseph Pulitzer. So these are all quite moneyed people. The two eloped when she was 21, and Lily she moves to Palm Beach to be with Henry, where his family's pretty well established. This couple was a bit of an oddity in Palm Beach. They stick out for several reasons. They both enjoyed to party. And seldom felt obligated to attend the important Palm Beach social functions. They'd rather just hang out in dive bars rather than going to the parties that they were supposed to go. And they stuck out, and people thought they were, snubbing their upper class protocols, etc. So they had already had a pretty, unfavorable reputation within the elite social circles. She never cared for fashion. She never dressed up very much, Lily, when she had to go to these parties. She frequently wore a headscarf and large earrings. She always was barefoot if she could be. And she famously would tell everyone that would listen to her that she always famously wore no underpants ever. So this all feeds into her dress. I'm not just telling you her fashion. So
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that sample of one of our current presentations on our bureau. And now I'm going to move on to discussing the contract requirements as a speaker. If you are chosen as a Florida Humanities speaker, you are required to live in Florida most of the year, as programming occurs year-round, all 12 months out of the year. You will host programs virtually and in person and travel statewide. Travel costs are arranged directly with the host organization, so you will be compensated for your time and distance traveled. Speakers accept non-negotiable honoraria of $300 per program paid directly by Florida Humanities. This rate is the same for virtual and in-person programs. Speakers must submit all required forms and reports to Florida Humanities by the designated deadline. As well, speakers must participate in Florida Humanities and host organizations' marketing efforts, including interviews, photos, and videos for social media and digital and print outreach. You're required to attend a mandatory speakers orientation hosted by Florida Humanities happening in the spring of 2023 on Zoom. Speakers must provide a 1 to 2 minute video about their professional background and programs for host organizations to view as an introduction to your services. Lastly, we ask that all speakers communicate promptly with Florida Humanities and host organizations by email or phone. If selected as a Florida Humanities speaker, you will be asked to sign a contract reflecting these terms in spring 2023. So I'm going to share some information about the application itself. If you have questions about anything I've shared so far, please place them in the Q&A box to be answered at the end of the presentation. So the first step is to read all the guidelines thoroughly available on our website, as well as preview the application or rewatch this webinar. Next, create an individual account on our online application portal. If you applied for a previous application cycle or other Florida Humanities funding opportunity, you can use that login and password. If you don't have an account, step-by-step instructions on how to make one are available on the portal's homepage and on the Apply to be a Speaker page. Complete an application by January 11th, 2023 at 12 p.m. EST. This is a very firm deadline, like I said before, and no applications will be accepted past this date. I encourage you to apply sooner rather than later, as applications are considered and reviewed on a rolling basis by our evaluation team. So here is a screenshot of the homepage of the online application portal. To access this page, visit flahum.org/apply, and I'll put that in the chat once the presentation is finished. I recommend bookmarking the page, as you may need to revisit it over time. To create a new account, click the gray button here at the bottom. In the gray box to the right, download instructions to create an individual account here. These instructions again are also available on our Apply to be a Speaker page. We can't reset any information for you if you forget your password, but you can do so on your own by clicking the Forgot Your Password button here. So once you've logged in, navigate to the top bar on the screen and click Apply. Then navigate to the section with the Florida Humanities Speaker Application link. It won't be the top choice at the moment, as all of our funding opportunities are organized alphabetically, but I promise you it will be on that homepage. I also wanted to clarify that we have the Florida Talks application open, but that is for organizations to apply to host speakers, not for you to apply to become a speaker. So you can see on this screen here, this is the title that you want to look for: 2023/01 Florida Humanities Speaker Application. To preview the application, click the bottom gray button on the right here with the eyeball, and to start an application, click the blue button on the top right here. You can start and finish an application later by clicking the Save button on the bottom of the application. Make sure you do that if you have to come back to it, because unfortunately, none of the information you inputted will save automatically. You must use our online application portal to submit an application, as emailed or mailed applications will not be accepted. Within the application, we ask for some demographic information, including the best telephone number and email to reach you. We ask information as well about your professional background, and you must upload a recent resume no more than 4 pages, displaying your humanities knowledge and public presenting experience, along with 2 professional references Florida Humanities can contact if we need to. You will also need to provide information about your programs. You may apply with up to 3 presentations and need to include which priority topic or topics they fall under, a short description of that presentation, and if you have presented the presentation before. Lastly, there are 3 narrative questions for you to complete about your experience and how far you're willing to travel, and then you can finish and submit. I also wanted to mention there is a place within the application for you to include a link of you presenting this program or something similar, either to YouTube or on Vimeo, Dailymotion, any one of those video sharing platforms, along with a link to, or excuse me, a place to upload a file of your digital presentation elements, like a PowerPoint or Keynote or flyers you have made advertising your presentation, etc. So some applicants may be selected to participate in an audition after Florida Humanities staff evaluate your application. Auditions last 20 to 25 minutes over Zoom and include a Q&A about your professional background and experience with public speaking, as well as a live 10 to 15 minute snippet of a presentation you have submitted for consideration. Again, these auditions are conducted over Zoom, and applicants may be included with all or some of your presentations they have submitted. So now I will move on to address some of the frequently asked questions that we get about this process. If you have anything else that may not be addressed in this section, or anything questions that I've discussed so far, please place them in the Q&A box and I'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So how much honorarium do I receive? All speakers receive a non-negotiable honorarium of $300 for each virtual and in-person program conducted with a Florida Humanities host organization. Florida Humanities pays honoraria directly to speakers, but travel costs are negotiated and paid for by host organizations. So what qualifications do I need to be a speaker? Florida Humanities is looking for speakers with a high level of training, expertise, education, or experience in their chosen field. Higher education degrees are encouraged, but not required to be considered for inclusion in the Bureau. How many speakers will be chosen in this cycle? Due to limited space, Florida Humanities may only add up to 15 new speakers to the Bureau beginning in spring 2023. Where will I present my programs? Florida Humanities' most frequent host organizations for Speakers Bureau programming are public libraries, museums, and historical societies, but many other types of organizations apply, like nature centers, community centers. We've even had a children's museum apply before as well. Remember that programs must be suited for out-of-school adults ages 18 plus and are not presented at public or private K-12 schools, but occasionally family and younger children will be present at programs, but again, that's negotiated between you and the host organization. How many programs can I apply with? Each applicant may apply with up to 3 programs. Speakers may be selected with all or some of the proposed programs in the application. When will I be notified of my application status? Notification will be sent in March 2023 via the online application portal. Requests for auditions will be sent via email on a rolling basis once your application has been submitted. If you are affiliated with a university as a professor, adjunct, faculty member, or professor emerita, we have a funding opportunity available just for you. Greater Good Humanities and Academia grants are for Florida colleges and universities who can apply for up to $10,000 to support community programming that aims to broaden the public's awareness of the humanities and what it means to be human. Florida Humanities is hosting an informational webinar Wednesday, January 18th at 3 p.m. if you'd like to learn more, and applications are due May 31st, 2023. We require the involvement of a fiscal officer at your college or university to apply, and so we recommend starting a conversation with them before you make any next steps. To learn more about this grant and download the guidelines, please visit the URL on the screen. I am sharing this information on behalf of my grants team's colleagues who run this wonderful program, and our deadline was just released for 2023 recently, so I recommend if you are affiliated with a university or professor, checking out this amazing opportunity. And it's now a 1-year-long grant cycle period, and more information, like I said before, is available on the website along with my colleagues' contact information if you want to learn more. Similarly, if you're affiliated with a nonprofit organization or know of one that might benefit from Florida Humanities' myriad of funding opportunities available, I encourage you to visit floridahumanities.org/funding-opportunities to browse other current opportunities available. We just uploaded a lot of our 2023 deadlines for your perusal opportunities. If you're not already as well, I encourage you to sign up for our e-newsletters. This is the first place we announce new funding opportunities and opportunities in general to be involved with Florida Humanities, as well as attending events in your local area. You can sign up at floridahumanities.org/sign-up. So that is it for me today. I'm going to leave my contact information up on the screen while I answer any and all of your questions. And I already see I have one from earlier in the presentation. And you said, who is your target audience? So Florida Humanities Speakers Bureau programs are targeted for out-of-school adults ages 18 plus. However, sometimes at certain locations, families and younger individuals and sometimes even children will attend the program. And so that's why we encourage our speakers to be flexible with their presentation content and delivery. However, you'd be informed by the host organization prior to that program happening that kids may or may not be present. But on the side of caution, programming is for out-of-school adults ages 18 plus. And I have another question as well, a great question. What is the general length of the presentation? So we encourage the presentation itself to be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes of content, plus time on either end for Q&A, which is super vital in these presentations, as well as the organization's intro and outro of information, thanks for coming, please fill out a survey card, here's another event happening at our organization soon. Again, so it's 30 to 45 minutes of content, and then the program itself often lasts an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Alrighty, and then it's 12, clarification question, 12 midnight or 12 noon on January 11th. It is 12 noon, 12 p.m. EST. Applications will close. They will close automatically. So if you have an outstanding application, at that time, unfortunately, you won't be able to access it any further. So again, really strongly recommend you apply sooner rather than later, or at least get started on an application soon. Alrighty. You mentioned including links to videos or videos of previous recorded presentations. Can these be different topics, or do they need to be the ones we are proposing? These can be different topics. You can also include the ones you're proposing as you may not have a video of you presenting this presentation before to a live audience or a virtual audience if this is a new presentation. This is for an idea to get our evaluation team, give them an idea about what your presentation style is like, your capabilities as a presenter, and your speaking style, which is really important. This element of your application is totally optional, but it can help rather than hurt your application. Great question. Alrighty. And another great question, on average, how many talks do speakers generally do in 1 year? And I know this is sometimes an unhelpful response, but I can say it depends. We have speakers who provide a little bit more specialized topics, so they'll get booked more times, more specific times during the year. So we have a wonderful presenter who gives a presentation about women's history in Florida, and you could expect that she's booked a lot in February, March, and April for Women's History Month celebrations. However, other programs that are more general in nature, like the clip you saw of Dr. Convertito's program, can be booked many times throughout the year. On average, with our current directory of programming, considering that we recently overhauled how people can apply for Florida Talks, speakers give anywhere from 4 to 5 programs at different locations throughout the calendar year. Again, that will vary. Some months you may give 3 in a row and then don't do any for a couple of months, or you may do 1 each month for a long time. I can also say that bookings are more frequent from September to May. Summer we find to be our slower months rather. However, we've changed our application process to encourage people to apply to host programming over the summer. So we will see once the summertime rolls around again. On average, as a whole, we host somewhere between 8 to 10 Florida Talks programs a month at our current rate. And that's a little bit more in-person programs rather than virtual, but it depends month to month, and of course is going to be dependent upon our changing health environment as well. Okay, and clarifying question, just to confirm, other content of you presenting is fine. Yes, I recommend it be in a more academic setting. Like, please don't submit a video of you doing stand-up comedy or singing a song. We want it to be as close as possible to what you'll be presenting as a whole, kind of in your speaking style. These are all wonderful questions, and thank you for helping me add in some information I might have missed in our presentation. I'm happy to stay on a couple more minutes and answer any questions you may have, but I'll see as well. And thank you again for all of your wonderful questions. If you have any more, I recommend checking our FAQs or sending me an email. And we've got one few here. As well, description of current speakers and their presentations and topics. Yes, that can be found on our Florida Talks homepage. As if you go to the online speakers directory, I can send a link in the follow-up email that I send, as well as a link on to the application itself. I recommend you browse what we currently offer, and you can even click to kind of filter out based on subtopic. And it's a great way to see what we're currently offering, as well as if you are interested, reaching out to some of our speakers and asking them about their experience. But if there are no more questions at this time, and be courteous of your time and mine, I'm going to finish up for today. Thank you for your time and attention this morning. This webinar was recorded and will be sent to attendees along with a slide deck of today's presentation. I encourage you to browse our events calendar to find speakers events virtually in your area to see what we're looking for, or as suggested, take a look on our online speakers directory. I can say as of today, when this webinar is being recorded, there is one virtual program happening later today, December 8th, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And if you can't make it, I still encourage you to register because a live recording from this organization is set out to all registrants. If you have any questions, please reach out. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that can be found on our events calendar on our website. If you have any questions for me, please reach out. Email is the best way to receive a quick response as we work in a hybrid model, so it might take me a few days to respond to your phone message. Our offices will be closed December 19th through January 2nd for the winter holidays, but our webpage and online application portal will remain available for you to navigate and start an application or even submit one. Again, I encourage you to start an application sooner rather than later and to reach out to me if you have any questions. Again, we're closed December 19th through January 2nd, so if you send an email throughout that time, it won't be answered till beginning after January 2nd. I have one more question before we go. And this is a great question as well. We don't need to get host organizations ourselves. And if we do, what do you tell them and how to hire speakers? No, so you are not responsible for reaching out to host organizations yourselves or gathering them to speak. Host organizations apply through our Florida Talks Accompanying Speakers Bureau program. And once, they will reach out to you, contact you and ask you, hey, we'd like you to present X program on Y date at Z time. And then they apply through us. And then we send out notification that, yes, you will be presenting at this location at this time and this date. Great clarifying question before we finish up. All right, again, if you have any questions for me at any time, please reach out. We are happy to answer anything. Again, email. The one on the screen is the best way to get a hold of me because phone messages can take a couple of days to return as we work hybrid. Last time, our offices are closed December 19th through January 2nd, so any messages sent during that time won't be responded to until beginning January 3rd. Thank you all so much for attending today. Have a great weekend and a happy holiday season.